We would now invite Ms. Natasha Zarine, co-founder and managing director at EcoSattva.
Thank you, Kamal, for having me here. Thanks to Akram as well. It's been I've been listening to the conversations in the previous panel, and it's been a really rich discussion, specifically on recycling and recycling technologies. I would like to focus on what Dr. Kader just mentioned. The challenge of collection post-consumer waste, and that's waste plastic. That's the part that I want to focus on. Of course, I've been briefed and called onto this program to talk about how a kind of citizen engagement program has moved into the whole waste management space. So I will give a brief background on that, and then go more into how we are tackling plastic waste and what the challenges are. So briefly, my co-founder and I, Gauri Marashi and me, we started with trying to understand the challenge of waste management in our city. That's how it started. The idea was to collect data on this. This was in 2013-14, to understand why we had waste being dumped at street corners, waste in our drains and rivers and water bodies, waste being burnt, then waste being collected and taken to a larger place and dumped and burned. So this was the larger challenge that we wanted to understand, and we wanted to break down the pieces to find where the gaps were and what the solution could be. So we started with no agenda, with just wanting to understand the challenge and then build solutions and build them in partnership with the municipal body. So the main stakeholder in handling waste, post-consumer plastic waste or any kind of waste, is the municipal body or the Gram Panchayat or the government. And they've been doing this for decades, right? So the idea was to understand the challenge even from the government's perspective. And so we began our study, and we found out the problems with collection, effective doorstep collection of segregated waste at source, at setting up that system first. Thereafter, the transportation from primary collection to secondary collection. How do you transport it effectively in a segregated manner? Then resource recovery. How do you set up facilities to recover the resources from the waste once they're segregated? And eventually monitoring the entire process. And then, of course, plugging in technology wherever needed. So we have what we've called the boat ramp process that we've developed, first working in Aurangabad city and then in multiple other smaller cities and towns. And then we also implemented it in Buenos Aires in Argentina and Denpasar in Bali. So, and the idea was to look at waste management as a holistic, to look at it holistically. It's not about just plastic waste. It's about how to get to that plastic waste. We need to ensure that our waste management systems are effective. And that's how we started working on the ground in first one neighborhood, then a ward, then a township, then Aurangabad city, then Vaijapur, Ratnagiri, smaller cities and towns. And like I said, even in Buenos Aires and Bali. It's a systems challenge which needs a systems solution. So while trying to handle plastic waste, we need to make sure that we're looking at waste management, especially post-consumer plastic waste. We need to make sure we're looking at plastic waste management holistically. We need to partner with government bodies. They've been doing this. Their Safai Karmacharis have been working day in, day out. We need to, as us, we partner with the municipal body to organize the primary collection, doorstep collection, to ensure it goes from a dumping point collection to now a household, level doorstep collection system. Then you have to have awareness campaigns and IEC campaigns that are actually effective and get real behavior change. 3 kinds of behavior change done at the household level. Segregation of waste at source into 3 to 4 categories. Keeping your waste with yourself and giving it only to the Safai Karmachari or the Ghanta Gadi and not throwing it at a formal or informal street corner dumping point. And the third would be being respectful to the Safai Karmachari, because now they are going to refuse to take mixed waste. If the third one is not done effectively, you will have conflict, breaking out all across the city. I think a lot of cities have shown that many cities have shown But there are lots more who are not able to do this because they need that support and hand-holding. And this is where really EPR and plastic waste management rules and PIBOs and all should really be jumping in to support the municipal bodies to strengthen their abilities to provide doorstep collection of segregated waste at source. Just posters and banners and advertisements here and there don't have the kind of effect that actually on-ground support does. So that's the other thing that we need to make sure that we're able to do. And for post-consumer plastic waste. So the challenge comes in segregation of waste at source, and organizations like mine and many others have shown that it is definitely possible to enable this, to get this done. The other challenge is changing the collection system from a dumping point to dumping point collection into a doorstep collection of segregated waste. The vehicle needs to be ready, the Safai Karmacharis need to be ready, the system needs to be ready to be able to handle primary collection of waste, segregated waste, and then the secondary collection also, the transportation, the middle point where a lot of mixing happens. That's when you can get that plastic clean and you can get it out of the waste stream sooner, so therefore it can go into the whole circular economy faster and reduce the amount of transportation required. And of course, then comes the sorting, the material recovery facilities that need to be set up ideally within the cities with very less transportation from the household to the MRFs, so that you're preventing emissions also. So that's another thing that's really important to get done. Then there's the sorting. That's where the informal sector must be incorporated. And we talk about plastic waste management and EPR and all, using all the jargon of different technologies and different PIBOs and all, and we're leaving out the informal sector that has been the backbone of recycling so far. And I'm not saying that they need to be considered out of humanitarian grounds. I am saying that they are a resource, they're a network, they're absolutely a strength in plastic waste management and implementing EPR. We should be incorporating them and taking them along in whatever systems that we're planning. So incorporation of the informal sector is absolutely essential, especially at the MRFs and at the resource recovery phase. And then, of course, we need to have forward linkages with recyclers. If this system is set, then we can really focus on the different technologies and how to improve the resource recovery from the materials that we've collected. But we have to ensure that we have segregated plastics and overall dry waste collected, because we have that will also help us solve the challenge of fabrics, which may not be covered under plastic waste management rules right now or under EPR right now, but they do have a large polymer content. So we'll be sorting that problem, sanitary waste, etc. So we have to take a holistic approach. We have to partner with government bodies at the city and Gram Panchayat level. We have to make sure that our solution is equitable and inclusive, because otherwise we'll try to solve one problem and create another one. There are almost, the estimates are that between 1.5 to 4 million people in India are working in the informal space in waste collection. And also I would like to mention here the way the formal Safai Karmacharis work. Even that needs to change. If they're collecting mixed waste, they're using their hands a lot more. They're close to a lot more hazardous waste. If it is segregated, then the Safai Karmacharis' working conditions are also improved. And this is absolutely essential when we're talking about plastic waste management, when we're talking about solving problems and circular economy and all that. We have to be considering the people who are working to actually make this happen on ground. So any solution that does not take into account the requirement of Safai Karmacharis, formal, and waste pickers who are maybe informal, is an incomplete solution and might be causing another problem and a bigger one. The Swachh Bharat Mission and Majhi Vasundhara programs, these are absolutely powerful, helpful. They're pushing municipal bodies to take on these. Previously, this was all being done as informal, as civil society organizations like ours or other organizations who are trying to get some change done in their cities and towns. Now there's institutional backing for it. And that's a great thing and needs to be harnessed further. I would say we should focus, we should focus on, I would say that we should be focusing on a few cities in each state, figuring and of different scales. So plastic waste management, overall waste management in Mumbai will be different from that in a smaller city like Aurangabad, which will be very different from what it will be in a smaller town like Vijaypur, and then in Gram Panchayats. We have to understand the challenge and build solutions that would work across different scales, and not just talk about the large metropolises. So that's the other piece, and we specifically work in medium and smaller size cities as well. And EPR is a powerful tool again that can enable effective waste management. First, focusing on the plastics that are not recyclable. And of course, this is where traceability is absolutely essential. So our solutions work on, we need to be able to look at the challenge holistically. I think that's where I'll end. Technology can be plugged in at the right place. EPR is a helpful financial tool that is enabling the recovery of much more of the reject plastics and the low value plastics that were otherwise, at our centers taking up the majority space because they're very voluminous and didn't have a solution for processing. So co-processing is great. Now we're having recycling solutions also for the low value plastics, and that's wonderful. But like I said, for EPR, for plastic waste management, we have to look at overall solid waste management in cities, towns, and villages. And we have to take a holistic, systemic approach, partnering with government bodies, partnering with grassroots organizations, enabling best practices in at least a few cities completely, and then scaling that across other ULBs. And that's what we do. I was told, we started as 2 individuals trying to understand the challenge on ground, and we've grown to now a team of, I think, 68 people working full time across 18 different geographies. And while we're doing plastic waste management and EPR, we're working mainly as an entire how to set up entire systems for urban local bodies in waste management. So I'll stop here. Thank you.